Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I am here today to talk about The Candle in the Wind by T.H. White. This is another one of my series talk videos. These are videos that are in-depth, spoilery, discussion-y videos about books within series, and today we are talking about The Once and Future King, book number 4, Candle in the Wind. There weren't tons of options for visuals for this. I ended up with this one, but I also, of course, have the book as well. But this one also includes the Book of Merlin. But I'm like a little surprised I didn't find a lot of images for The Candle in the Wind, but I didn't. So anyway, let's look at the title itself. Oh, I will leave a link up above to Series Talk if you want to hear more about what these styles of videos are, but as I mentioned, they are in-depth spoilery, so if you don't want to know content of the book, or if you don't want to be spoiled on the book and you haven't read it, then these are not the ones to watch. Friday reads are a better bet for that, because I go over things more in a spoiler-free way, and even the sci-fi, fantasy, and weird videos are spoiler free, but these ones are content filled. So here we go. So as I mentioned, this is the 4th book in the Once and Future King series. It was published in 1958. It is a complete series of 4 to 5 books, depending on how you look at it. The genre is Arthurian, adventure, and romance. The series itself also has elements of fantasy, but I don't think there were any fantasy elements in this one. And it took me a week to read it. I rated it 7.5 out of 10 or 3.5 out of 5. But which was the same actually as the previous one, The Ill-Made Knight. And this one, in terms of the plot, that is pretty firmly centered on the story of Lancelot and Guinevere. They're not so much their romance, but the turmoil that it stirs up, especially with Mordred and Agravain. Is that how you spell his? Is that how you spell? Is that how you say his name? Agravain. Yeah. So where do we go with this one? So let's so it's one of the weird things is that when I finished this book, when I finished this title, I ended up finishing this bind up of the Once and Future King, like the whole bind up, but there's still one book left with the Book of Merlin. So this is weird because it does feel like an ending, and I knew that the Book of Merlin was sort of like extra, and I think it was published after T.H. White had passed away. I'm not 100% sure on that. But so this is a bit, it does feel a bit weird. So, but you know, that is just the way of it. Anyway, so, yeah, so this one, it was really about Lancelot and Guinevere, their love or affair, I guess, depending on how you look at it. I don't know, I got all weird there. And Mordred wants to oust them, like in terms of make it known, because it ends up being at this point, and everyone's a bit older. People, they describe it as having gray in their hair. In Arthur, Lancelot, and Guinevere, like all of them are in it, and you know, and that's mostly what it's about, is the strife that it's not even that it causes between them. Like it's sort of weird that it's sort of this known thing, not only between Arthur and the 3 of them, but it seems like people in court know. But Mordred, who is Arthur's son, he really is bitter, and he wants to make this known. He wants to, I don't know if he wants to punish Arthur. That feels like what he wants to do. He's just angry. One of the weird things that I didn't actually realize about this was Mordred is technically the heir, because Arthur and Guinevere don't have any kids. There is no lineage beyond the possibility of Mordred, who is the son of Arthur and his half-sister. He didn't know it was his half-sister at the time. And then Agravain is one of those characters that I always have a hard time remembering who he is, other than he's really angry. I think he is the one who, in The Queen of Air and Darkness, is super horrible in terms of the unicorn. I think that was him. I don't remember. I find all of these at the Orkneys or Oakleys. I found their story very confusing, and I did in each book that they've been in. They describe it very quickly in the same way, very because in this one, I think they kill, their mother ends up getting killed, But it all is this sort of like back and forth between them and another family, and like, you know, this person got mad so they killed this person, and then that person got mad so they killed this person, and this person got mad so they killed this person, and there was like an affair or something so they killed this person. And so like, but it's always explained very quickly, and I'm like, and I can never follow it, so I found that really, really frustrating. And we like, if you know other Arthurian books that either focus on that family more or describe it in a more clear way, I would love to hear about it, because I found reading them in this books, I have found it hard to follow. Like the Guinevere Arthur Lancelot, you know, like that story is very, very well known. Although with this one, it did, like there was a scene that played out differently than I remember, because Mordred is trying to force the cards of Lancelot being found with Guinevere. And usually I think when I hear the story, it's like he's found in her bedchamber, but he's in, you know, night, like he's in mail, and so they don't know who he is, but his hand is hurt, and then they figure out who he is because his hand is hurt. That's not how they told the story here. This one, they you know, they knew it was him, they fought him, and he ran away. And I was like, you know, like, so I was like, wow, that's a bit different. And it's weird to have these stories be told differently. This is heavy, so I'm going to switch. So it's weird to have the stories like that told differently, but I guess they are tales, you know. So I was surprised that it was a different take, but you know, that's okay, you know. And I still find it funny, I think, in this one as well, like often the author, because the author very directly talks to you, the audience, several times, and there's some scenes where he goes, oh yeah, if you want to hear that in detail, read the Mallory version. And I have read Mallory, but it's just kind of funny. So, because I have read Lamore D'Arthur, but it's even drier than this. But I am enjoying this. But this one, I didn't love it. I didn't love it. There was so much pain and so much turmoil, and like the love triangle is painful. Like you can feel, and like that, you know, that everyone knows, and everyone just looks the other way, and there feels like there's no resolution possible. So because, and it brings up an interesting question. One of the reasons why they say sort of there's no resolution possible is that, you know, like this charge has come up before. What happened was Lancelot fought someone in combat and he won, so that means the ruling is, yeah, Guinevere's didn't do anything wrong because he fought, you know, in this duel, which I always think is bananas. Like anytime I read that in historical fiction or in fantasy fiction, those are the two places it seems to come up. I'm like, how can a physical fight dictate what happened? but that being said, they do talk about that in this. Like Arthur's theme, or Arthur's focus on this one, is talking about, and throughout the series since the second book, has been about structuring society. Like what do you do? Like, you know, how do you resolve this issue? How do you resolve any issue? Does it come down to physical force? What happens when people don't agree, you know, and what are different options that you can take? Like he actually talks about that from like a socio-political perspective several times, like throughout the story, and that's his sort of take on things. Although it just seems to be like that there's all this anger and turmoil and hatred, and like from Mordred and Gawaine, you know. And I actually found, so we're gonna go right to the ending now. I actually found the ending surprising. I found it very touching, because it was like the last like 306, what is it? No, sorry, it's 638 pages of this tiny print book that I've been reading this year. So I found it was really, like, it got me, but I also found it was surprising because it felt a little open-ended. Because at the very end of this, like after going through, like, you know, them being accused, them being set up, Lancelot fighting his way through, Lancelot leaving, Lancelot saying he will always come back if Guinevere is in trouble. I can't remember if he does that once or not, more than twice, but he ends up being banished. They actually drive him out of England. He has to go back to France, and then, oh, that's right, oh my god, I forgot about that. And then I think it's Gawaine who ends up being someone who just continually fights him, and he won't kill him. I think Gawaine is his son. I can't remember. Yeah, Gawaine of Orkney. And he won't, and Lancelot won't kill him, and Arthur has forbidden Lancelot from killing Mordred as well. So it's like they have their two sons who are trying to kill Lancelot, and he just won't do it. And it's not because he can't; it's because he won't. And then there's that question too, and then also the question of how does this ever stop? One of the weird things, though, is that, as I said, it feels open ended. It doesn't say how it stops. It's very touching. I found it extremely touching. The ending of the ending of the book, which has Arthur telling the story to just a regular, I think it's just like a regular guy, like he's like a page named Tom or something like that. I don't know if or Will or something. I don't know if we're supposed to know as the reader, as a sort of wink wink, like who he's supposed to be. But Arthur sort of tells him his story and then goes out to fight Mordred, who is attacking Guinevere. Like Guinevere is stuck in a tower because Mordred wants to marry her. More bananas. And Arthur goes out to fight him, and it's like, and I was like, and like that was it, and I was like, wait a second, like what happens? And then actually at the very end actually says the beginning. I was like, what? How can that be the beginning? So, but I found it very, very touching, and I'm trying not to get all teary talking about it. He does say that Mordred must be slain. He does, and of course he does not want to kill his own son. So yeah, so this was like has been such a weird ride. The book, like, no, I don't like. When did I think, when I bought this last year for like 33 cents at Bookends, did I think it was going to take me this long to read? Like, no. Did I think it was going to be such a rocky ride? No. I ended up loving The Sword in the Stone, and I enjoyed The Queen of Air and Darkness, but since then it's been a bit rocky. So much of this is about like war and fighting and society, and I thought it would be more focused on character, because I really like the characters of the Arthurian stories. That's where my heart lies. And it's epic battles and big dramatic stuff, but I felt like there was so much turmoil in this particular title that it was hard to quote unquote enjoy. And Lancelot is very different in this than he tends to be portrayed in other things. Like, he does seem to be like, he will do the right thing, except for the one wrong thing he does, which is being in love with Guinevere. So, but he will stand up for her. He will stand up for what's right, like that sort of, and then Arthur is trying to create a world where there is, order out of chaos kind of thing, and not necessarily, it doesn't go as predicted. It doesn't go as predicted. So, and it is really weird because, as I said, this is the last in the 4-book bind up, and I think it's considered the end of the story. And it is on a couple of the different lists that I'm working on. It's on the Shannon Reads Those Books list. It's also on my sci-fi, fantasy, and weird list. But I'm not considering the series complete until I finish the Book of Merlin, which is only about 110 pages. So I hope it won't take too long. This one was only around that in this kind of font. So, but the Book of Merlin I'm going to get from the library. So I am going to continue to go on to that. I do love the character Merlin. I don't even think he showed up in this one. Nemu might have been in it for a minute, but Merlin is one of my favorite characters, and he was mostly present in The Sword in the Stone. So I'm looking forward to the Book of Merlin. I don't know what it does. I don't know if it's his life story or his upbringing, or these events from his perspective, or from before he met Arthur. Or, I have no idea, but I know that this sort of tends to be what people think of with the Once and Future King, is these 4 books. So it's weird to end but continue at the same time. So this one, it's been a bit rocky, but I am glad that I persisted. It has been definitely a more challenging read, just from because it's an older work, it's more challenging overall, I find. But I am glad that I stuck with it, and I am looking forward to continuing it. And in true Shannon fashion, it took me like a long, slow start, and then like the last 3 books I'll probably read within a month of each other, because that's just the way it goes somehow. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on The Candle in the Wind, and the ones from Future King, just generally, not the Book of Merlin yet because I haven't read it yet, but just sort of like, you know, if what did you enjoy about this particular title? Do you like the story of the Orkneys, or do you enjoy the story between the love triangle, Arthur, Lancelot, and Guinevere, or the fighting? What is the appeal to you? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and yeah, I will be back soon with another video. Thanks for watching.